Okay, let's get started. Welcome, everybody, to this talk about Spring Boot tooling. So tooling for Spring and Spring Boot in the Eclipse IDE, basically. But the stuff that I'm talking about, it's in one way or the other, you can find that in other IDEs too. But some things are special to Eclipse, but I hope you can make some sense out of that for you, for your environment, maybe. My name is Martin Lippert. I work for Pivotal. That's a company behind Cloud Foundry and Spring and RabbitMQ and all those nice projects that makes it easier for you to develop cloud-native apps. And before I start, I would like to ask you about who's using Spring already? Okay, that makes sense. Who's using Eclipse as an IDE or Spring Tool Suite or some things like that? Okay. What are the others? IntelliJ? IntelliJ, okay. Anything else? NetBeans? DI? Emacs? TextMate? Atom? Sublime? Okay, cool. Okay, let's get started. Of course, safe harbor statement, right? Don't trust me. There's no product announcement and no promises be made in this talk. And I guess you know about Spring Boot, right? Who already uses Spring Boot? Not just Spring. Yeah, okay, that's cool. So basically, the short sentence from Adrian Cockcroft from the Spring IDE keynote, hey, let's go on with Spring Boot and Cloud Foundry and get on with your life. So what my team is doing, we're doing the tooling for the IDEs, especially for Eclipse, but we are looking at other kind of environments and editors in the future too. But that's what you can download from our website, the Spring Tool Suite, right? But it's basically Eclipse plus additional plugins that we think make sense for you if you hack on Spring applications. And that's what I'm going to use today in my demos, because the question that drives me is how can I make your life easier, or how can I boost your productivity when you hack Spring Boot apps? That's my goal, and that's what I would like to show you for the stuff. So it's not really a product demonstration. It's all open source. The stuff that I'm going to show you, you can download that for free and use that for free. So it's not a payware product or something like that. And you can even help us and contribute code if you want. So feel free to go on GitHub and submit a pull request or help us hack the IDE. I think talking about tools is boring. And showing slides about tools is even more boring. So I will do demos all the time. So we'll be a talk out of, let's say, the remaining 25 minutes will be demo time only. Hope that's okay with you. If you have questions, feel free to ask in between whenever you want. Raise your hand, give me a sign, or kind of shout out loud. I don't know. If I don't see that, let me know. And yeah, let's dive in. Let's dive in. If I find the escape key on my new MacBook Pro, that's kind of a challenge from time to time. Okay, yeah, not the escape key, but that was close. So here I am. It's a Spring Tool Suite, populated with quite some stuff in my workspace. And I would like to get started with a Spring Boot app. Would like to create a controller thing for the web, get some kind of REST services up and running on my local machine and make that easy for you. So what you can do is you can always go to something that's called start.spring.io, and that's what Josh always shows. That's an easy web app where you can select the kind of the Spring Boot starter modules that you want, and you can create a basic Maven project or Gradle project out of that for the specific boot version that you select, and you can download that, and then you can import that into your IDE if you want to. And that's pretty handy because you can easily get all the dependencies, all the necessary libraries on your project. And we have integrated that, so you can get that directly from within the Spring Tool Suite. Just go to create a new project using the Spring Starter project. And you get a nice wizard that populates with, hey, look, here we are. Let's change the name. I use a Maven and Java 1.8, that's all fine. Packaging is jar, that's all good. The interesting part is on the next page of the wizard where I can select the boot version, and then I can select all the starters and all the nice little modules that Spring Boot comes with, if you want to. So in my case, I have some kind of frequently used modules that are showing up right at the top, so let me use that one. And if I would like to, for example, hey, I would like to hack on Spring Data with MongoDB, I can just go here, Mongo, and see, oh yeah, that's kind of, MongoDB shows up here. I can even hover over that and see, oh, there are guides and references, some additional information for these starters that you can take a look at. And you can select all of those, but I'm fine with going with DevTools here and Actuator, and that's it for me at the moment. You could, if you want to, scroll through the whole list of Spring Boot starters that we have at the moment, which is quite some kind of comprehensive list here, but that's fine with me. If you create boot projects frequently, you can also set a few starters as some kind of default setting for you. So whenever you whenever you start up this wizard, it kind of pre-selects these kind of the 5 things, because you always want to have the DevTools on, you always want to have the Actuator on, you always want to have the web module on. You can set them as default, so they are all there as default. Okay, let's go, and you can see it uses actually the web service to create the project. So let me create that project. Here we are, Spring Boot project ready to use and ready to run. So I could go here and start. What I would like to do is I would like to hack and create a new controller. So I would like to create, let's say, my controller. And I know it has something to do with, it should be a REST controller, so I should put in an annotation for Spring that comes from the web module, but I forgot to put the web module on the class path, the starter, when I created the project. And usually you don't really know exactly the set of dependencies up front when you create the project. They kind of evolve over time. The nice thing here is, because I have a rough idea what the annotation looks like, I can go in here and get content assist for this type, and it tells me, oh yeah, I can import this type, but it comes from a different Spring Boot starter that you don't have on your class path yet. Should I do that for you? And I can say, oh yeah, do that. And it tells me, okay, in this case, I will change your POM file because I will add the starter to you. That's nice. That's easy. So let's do that. And I'm here. Cool. That's great. Would like to get a get request mapped to this controller. So let me use a quick code template that we put in for the usual Spring Boot stuff. So putting that on the /greeting, it's a get. I don't have any kind of module here, and I return hello from Devox. Okay, cool, done. REST controller is done, and I can just go ahead and start it up. And I can start there. There's kind of an easy way, saying start as Spring Boot application. And I don't know how you start up your apps in Eclipse. You start them up as apps, and they serve something. And the next thing that I usually do is I try to find out what port this stuff is running on. So I go to the log file and try to see, oh, is Tomcat really started or not? Is it done already? Or, oh, yeah, it's done. Take a look. Oh, it's port 8080, and so on. In case I hope I find the right bits and pieces. And I think that sucks, searching that all over the place in your log file. So let me stop that. There's a new component that we put into SDS. It's not really totally new. It's already in there since a few versions. Which is called the boot dashboard. And the boot dashboard gives you an overview about all the Spring Boot projects in your workspace. So it shows them all up here. And it's quite cluttered, so I have quite a bunch of them in there. So I would like to work on my demo one, or on everything that's called demo, so I can filter that one. And I only see the projects that are kind of interesting to me at the moment, which is boot demo 2. And I can just go ahead and start it up, and it starts up. And I can stop it from here, so I don't need to go to the right console and press stop over here, right? It's right, kind of start and restart and then stop. And it shows up the port. Whew, wow, I don't need to search through the log file, through the console to see the port. It's right here. And to make it even easier for you to open up the web browser and go to that port, you can just go there, double click, and it's open up a web browser for that port, for that URL. Okay? Cool. That makes it easy, right? Tiny little things that are usually quite kind of, you open up a browser, you open up a new tab, you type in localhost, and you kind of autocomplete and hope that you pick the right port that you found on the console and things like that. It's getting easier for you, right? Especially, and that's what we have in mind when we do this boot, when we implemented this boot dashboard. If you start on hacking microservice apps, you do not have this one app anymore that's huge, that contains everything. You start up building small building blocks and potentially many microservices. So you do not have this kind of 1 or 2 projects in your workspace that you start up and then everything is started. You start tiny little pieces and maybe many of them. And the boot dashboard makes it really easy for you. Okay, but it serves nothing because I have this kind of, oh, it is greeting. Oh yeah, there's DevOps, but I hate to type that in, and sometimes I forgot which request mappings I put into my app. So the good thing is I can go to a properties view here where I can see, oh yeah, that's running, and it shows me the request mappings of my application. Cool. So I see the app is running and it serves all these request mappings, and I can just double click here and it opens up greeting. And when I forgot where I hacked on this request mapping, I can just double click over here and it jumps to the code where this request mapping is being defined. So you can easily, quickly find the place where this request mapping is being served and implemented. Okay, so that's nice. But I also really like the double click on the app in the dashboard. So I would like to jump automatically to this greeting one, so I can go back here and type in a default path that I should always use when I double click, kind of the default thing that I would like to use for testing. And oh, I get nice content assist here. So I type that in, set it, and whenever I do double click here, it opens up directly that URL. Tiny little thing, makes it really easy for you, right? It saves you these kind of 5 or 10 seconds every time, multiple times a day, maybe hundreds of times a day, and makes it really easy for you. Really, really nice. Cool stuff. Okay, that's great. I can also jump to the console output quickly, so if I would like to find the right, especially if I have multiple ones, right, many consoles being open, I can quickly jump to that one. So I see, okay, here is the right one that matches my application that's running over here. So it's easy for me to navigate between different console views or jump to the right or open up the right one for me. Really nice. And you saw that I filtered that one. And let me remove that filter again. And that filter is quite smart because it doesn't filter for the name only. It also filters for working sets. So in this case, I have a working set that's called chatter, and there's stuff in there that's not called chatter. But if I type in chatter, it finds, oh, there's a working set with that name, so it should show everything that's in the working set. That's nice. And if that isn't enough, I can tag projects. So I can say, for example, I would like to see everything that's called, that's tagged with service, or that has service in its name. So it shows me everything that I tagged as a service or that has service in its name. Really nice. So I don't need to put in different working sets for all the different combinations. I can really easy tag them and put multiple tags and projects and see those here. So that's cool. Great. So let me stop my demo app and move on with something more complicated. It's not really complicated, but it's a nice one. The Chatter app. It's a kind of a chat application. Nothing really dramatic. Uses Spring under the hood, Spring Boot apps. Uses Spring data flow under the hood, so communicating with a RabbitMQ to exchange messages and things like that. And the good thing is, because it's kind of, I have 3 apps I would like to start, I don't need to start every app itself by hand. I can just go ahead and start all of them at once. And I see, oh, some of them are starting up. And it's not the VM that starts up. The VM is already there. This status indicator, it really tells me, is the app ready or not? Is it starting up? Is Spring Boot still starting up and starting the application and initializing the application? Or is the application, including the embedded web server, really ready to serve any requests? So when the green arrow shows up, the app is really ready. Okay, so I have 3 apps. It's kind of I have a log that logs everything that goes to the chat. I have a ping bot. The ping bot sends out ping messages every 2 seconds, maybe, here. And I have a UI. I can open up the UI, and I see, oh, that's the UI. Right? That's an easy one. But I think this is, it's too slow. That's not fun to watch. So let me go here and change that. And in the ping bot. And what we have in the ping bot, it's a property that you can set that we have defined in the project. It's a chatter ping interval. You can change that. And the nice thing here is that we added support for all the properties of Spring Boot apps and properties of your project itself. So you can get easy continuous, for example. In this case, let me remove that. If I type in server, I get continuous for server port, for example. And it shows me all the properties that are available around for Spring Boot. I don't need to learn all of them. I don't need to look them up on the web. It just shows me everything. And it does validation for me. So if I type in hello, let me use the English version, hello for port, tells me no. It's an int, right? I'm expecting an integer value for this property. And that is, that stuff is quite smart, because if I go in, for example, for a logging level, it knows about types. So if I would like to specify a logging level for a certain package or for a certain type, it knows about the types and knows, oh, this property expects a type or a package. I can put that in this case here, and it knows about the logging levels and so on. So it's really gives me a lot of assistance here. But let me change that. Let me change that to 200. I changed that, and I would like to change it here. Let me restart that. So it's just one-click experience, right? You can just one click, and it stops the app and restarts the app. Let me go back to the log to actually see something, and I see, oh, okay, that's done. Got restarted quickly, so that's nice. But it's not enough for me, because Spring Boot comes with DevTools, and DevTools allows you to hack your app and press save, and Spring Boot itself restarts the app automatically for you without shutting down the JVM, which is quite effective or quite efficient. But that's not on my Spring Boot project. So I can go to the POM file and say I edit the starters, and then magically I get the same wizard again for all the dependencies for Spring Boot, and I can just add one. In this case, DevTools. Let me add one. It's DevTools. Recompiles, and let me restart that one again. Oh, by the way, since DevTools is so special, it indicates all the projects that has DevTools on them, on the class path, directly with some kind of an additional marker on the label. So in this case, let me take a look at the log. Oh, it's still doing that stuff. When I change something here and I press save, it's Spring Boot that automatically restarts the app for me without shutting down the JVM. And I can do that, and I can do that again. Restarts the app under the hood. So that's kind of nice. And it works for code too. So it's not for properties only or something like that. So let me change some code. Send whatever the message. Oh, what should I? Type something in here. I press save, and it's there. Right? Code is changed, and I can do pretty much any changes I want. I'm not limited to debug, interface changes, or whatever, or changing method implementations only. I can do whatever I want. The only thing that doesn't work at the moment is changing the class path, so that's not yet implemented. So I cannot add additional dependencies to the class path. That's not kind of picked up by Spring Boot, not yet at least. Maybe in the future, but not at the moment. Okay, so kind of nice stuff. Helps you. There was a question, but it was the class path question?
Just wondering whether or not you actually did restart the application or whether or not it was hard-code replay.
Oh, it is restarting the application, but it's not restarting the JVM. In the case, the dev tools are on the class path of a boot app. Boot starts the app slightly different, so JVM gets started, Spring Boot gets started, and it creates a separate class loader for the app. So the app gets loaded with a different class loader than the JVM. And when it gets triggered for these kind of the code change, it throws away the class loader and everything that belongs to that, creates a new one, so reloads the application and kicks that off. So the state of the app is, of course, lost. Right? It's not keeping state. Therefore, it's totally different than hot code replacement of the debugger. Right? But it's more efficient than restarting the JVM by an order of magnitude. It's like, I don't know, restarting the JVM takes 5 seconds, and restarting the boot app takes just 1 second. Something like that for, let's say, the simple ones. Right? If you do a huge bunch of activity when you start up your app in your code, of course, that's being executed too. But yeah. Depends a little bit, but you have the option, right, to do that.
So tooling like JREP or similar are still relevant?
Yeah, they're still relevant. It's not replacing JRebel or something like that, or no, it's not a replacement for that, not at all. It's a totally different story. Oh, okay. So since we like that dashboard so much and it makes our life so easy with all these nice features going forth and back, we also think that sometimes when you work on microservice applications, you have many microservices running, and usually you don't have everything running on your local machine, so you use some kind of cloud environment to deploy your apps and to use your microservices and to have the database on or whatever. Right? And we integrated that into the dashboard to give you kind of the same experience. So what you can do here is you can add a Cloud Foundry account. In this case, we start hacking that for Cloud Foundry as a platform as a service. And that integrates as a new node into your boot dashboard. And it shows you what's going on Cloud Foundry, on your Cloud Foundry space. So it shows all the apps that are running. It shows what's the status of the app, so it's running or not running. And all the nice features that I have for my local apps, we tried to port them to Cloud Foundry apps too. So you can get the filtering that applies to the apps in Cloud Foundry too. You can start them, you can stop them, you can jump to the console output. So let me try to connect to the console of the log that's going on there. So it should show up some stuff here. What's going on Cloud Foundry? So it's directly integrated. Of course, I can double click. It opens up my app that's running on Cloud Foundry in this case. So it's kind of a publicly available one running on a Cloud Foundry instance on PDubs, Pivotal Web Services, kind of the public version of Cloud Foundry that's being hosted by Pivotal. I can tag them. I can see the request mappings and things like that. It's really It's really nice. But the good thing is I can also deploy them directly from within my environment. Of course, maybe not for production, right? You should have kind of a CI pipeline for that. But for testing purposes and for dealing with these in my local IDE and for quickly trying things out, I think it's really useful. So I would like to add those two apps to Cloud Foundry, to my Cloud Foundry instance. I would like to deploy them, and I just drag and drop them over. And it asks me, how should I deploy them? And I find a manifest file. That's kind of the thing that you use if you deploy an app to Cloud Foundry. You can put the configuration for Cloud Foundry in a manifest file, and we have support for that manifest file put into SDS. So you can directly select one, or you can type in a manual one, right? And we know, oh, usually it looks like this, and you get content assist here for the Cloud Foundry stuff, right? So we know about that. We know about the different things that are usually inside of a Cloud Foundry manifest. So the schema of the manifest is well known to us, and so we can deal with that. Say, oh yeah, that's a disk quota, and that should usually be X, Y, Z, and so on. So let me go back, and I just use that one for this application. And I use this one for the other one. So that's great. And you see those two apps are being deployed, and I can see the progress in my console view. So that's kind of being streamed to my IDE. I can easily see that, so that's kind of nice. So that usually takes a while. It kind of uploads everything and creates a container on Cloud Foundry and spins up everything. And that's really uploading stuff to some Amazon-hosted PDEPS version now. So I keep that running for a while. And while it's doing this deployment, I would like to show you that I can do these changes to my apps on Cloud Foundry too. And I think that's really, really nice. I have this pingbot application, and you can see, let me switch back to the bot here and to my app. It's kind of, it pings the app. And I would like to change that because I have DevTools deployed with this application to Cloud Foundry too. So I would love to change my app locally and then get those changes up to Cloud Foundry quickly without kind of redeploying the app all the time. So just use the same mechanism that Spring Boot does locally, but for the stuff on Cloud Foundry. So what I can do here is I can kind of connect to that app, connect Spring Boot to this app on Cloud Foundry, and now whenever I change something here in my app, it kind of finds out that, hey, there's something being changed. The app on Cloud Foundry is being restarted. So let me go back to this one. And I can see, hey, the change is being active on Cloud Foundry immediately because the app is being restarted on Cloud Foundry in the same way as I restarted it locally. So quite nice. A lot of tiny little tools that makes it easy for you to hack Spring Boot apps locally and on Cloud Foundry. Meanwhile, those are being deployed. And I could go on and show you more and more of those tiny little features. The cool stuff is I could even press restart in debug mode for an app running on Cloud Foundry and connect my Eclipse debugger to that one. That's cool, but it's really slow. Remote debugging is not made for wide area networks. But it works in case you really would like to find out what's going on the cloud platform. So you could do that, debug right into your app on the Amazon server, things like that. Okay, so I think I'm done with my demos and done with the time. So going back to the slides, saying yes. A lot of stuff that I showed you, creating boot apps, working with boot apps, and we continue to do that, right? We continue to add more stuff to the dashboard and make it easier and easier for you over time. Shipping new version of the Spring Tool Suite, so the next one will be out in, I don't know, I hope next week based on a new Eclipse version, and then the next one will be out in summer based on Eclipse Oxygen and so on. And under the hood, we work on some kind of new tooling that for Spring Boot that's might be available for other environments too, like other editors maybe, like VS Code or Atom or things like that. Okay, cool. Want to give it a try? Download the latest version, ask questions, Filebox, let us know. Yeah, I think I'm done. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed it. More questions. Really happy to answer more questions or discussions or ideas, stuff that you're missing from the tooling. So whenever you think, hey, the tool really sucks, it should do X, Y, Z, let us know. Would love to hear about those things.
When you're inside the Java editor and the class is missing from the class path, how do you detect how do you know where the proper jar containing that class is coming from? Do you use an index, like the Maven index on Central?
Yeah, the question is, how do we find out where this class inside of the Java editor is coming from, and which library should we add to the class path? That's kind of the question, and that's an index that we built up, and we uploaded that to a small little app on Cloud Foundry. And the first time you hit the content assist, that's being downloaded and is used inside, and it indexed the types that are coming from these Spring Boot libraries and Spring Boot starter modules. And it doesn't contain everything, right? It doesn't contain the world. It's really focused on, I think, the main Spring Boot starter modules. We might add Spring Cloud modules in the future or specific ones, but we don't want to kind of index the world or every library that's out there. It's really focusing on the Spring Boot modules. Yeah, that's the way we do it. It's kind of simple. Okay, more questions? Cool. Thanks for coming. Hope you enjoyed it, and enjoy the rest of the conference.